Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us on our podcast series. Tonight we have with us Lori Proctor with Ranch Master Real Estate, and Janice Sanders, the Secretary of the Chamber of Commerce, and then Adam Bain. I'm the President of the Chamber of Commerce right now. So we're excited to have Lori with us tonight. Going to talk about all things real estate. And Lori, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, we'll start that way.
Okay. Well, obviously, I'm Lori Proctor, and I'm married to Lee Proctor for going on 19 years, and we missed 11, think she's going on 16. However, I've lived in Whitney most of my adult life, and we did move to Temple for a few years, and that's actually where my real estate career began. And then I got pregnant with our surprise blessing, Madeline, and then the economy crashed in 2008. And so it was like, woo. But I actually powered through and actually was voted Rookie of the Year that year with my company and stayed with it. But we decided we wanted to come back to our hometown. And so we relocated back to Whitney. Kind of went on our own venture, opened up Vintage Green Interiors and did that. And even though I didn't jump right back into real estate then, it was always been a passion. And so over the last year or two years, I guess, I started retaking my classes. And so now I've been back at it for almost a year and a half. And I've been with Keith Reed. He's my broker at Ranch Masters, or Ranch and Home Masters. It's been a great new chapter of life for us. So Keith has been great. He's wonderful to work with. He's actually been in real estate for like 35 or more years, and he knows everybody and apparently is related to everybody, it seems like. So anyways, he's also licensed in Oklahoma as well as Texas. So that's been a nice added bonus, I guess, for our company. But I mean, we're plugged in with all the social media, Facebook, everything, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We do videos, of course, open houses. And then we're a part of the North Texas Real Estate MLS, which has kind of been good because our information, our listings will go to the Metroplex for realtors, opens up a broader range of realtors to see our listings. And so that's kind of been nice. And like I said, of course, we're on all syndicates as far as like realtor.com and Zillow and, all those or whatever. We're for sure on those, Crexy and all that. But we are a part of the North Texas MLS as well. So, but I think we kind of pride ourselves with our work ethic, our honesty, and going above and beyond for our clients' expectations, and treat every transaction almost as if it was the only transaction. I personally feel like when I'm in the middle, doing a transaction, meeting these people, and you build a relationship with these people, because you don't always know them. By the end of it, we're like friends. And so to me, that's kind of been my little tagline. I feel like I'm converting transactions to relationships, because I don't think you should, it should end just because you sign papers at the closing table, to me. So, but anyway, I guess that's a little bit of our community. Try to volunteer and, be an active part of our community. I have done several hours of volunteer work with Carol Westbrook at the Salvation Army. And we do go to fellowship at the Forum for church and school functions and, stuff like that. And like I said, Lee's been here forever, so.
So explain a little bit about, you said you're kind of involved in the North Texas MLS and all that. Is your office, your main office here in Whitney, or is this kind of an offshoot of a bigger company? Or is this kind of the main company here in Whitney?
No, Whitney is our only office. I'll work from home sometimes, but we have just our office here in Whitney. But
And
all of
that's
our things go to the Metroplex.
cool. And that's just across from the post office there in town, right?
Yes, it looks like a
Cool.
little cabin, should be in the mountains.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, cool. Janice, you want to start off with some of the other questions?
Yeah, well, I have tons of them, only because it just fascinates me, the real estate does. And because I'm down there across from White Bluff now, and I see people building and, moving in toward that direction. But the question I had was, with the change in the presidential administration, what changes do you expect to see in the housing market?
Well, I personally don't expect to see any major changes really to our local market, or even Texas for that matter, with this year or even into the next year, because I mean, yes, granted, the pipeline being shut down and oil being cut, I mean, that's going to have a slight impact. But since Texas is a refuge state, I just feel like the market is going to stay strong. Everything I've read, anything like that, classes, whatever, everything is still predicted to be a strong market, and competitive this year, just like last, actually. And the housing, however, the housing inventory is still predicted to stay at the historic low. And so it will remain a seller's market. But which can be good, puts them kind of in the driver's seat. But we have such an amount of buyers, which is a good time for buyers right now because the interest rates are so low, and so they are going up. But I think they're relatively going to remain lower. So I don't know. I really don't think it's going to affect local that much, really. But and I think too, the demand for the housing could be related to, I guess, the pandemic, which leads us into why we're having such an influx of people, because I think the prices here, the prices of homes, the cost of living, the taxes, even the economy here in Texas, actually Texas economy is ranked 9th in the world right now, according to WBAP the other day. So I feel like, job security, all that is going to be playing a factor in that as well. So people are just they're moving out of the urban areas. They're looking for rural areas, whether it be here, anywhere, just they're moving out, honestly. Our office in particular, we've already had a handful of people from California coming in.
That was going to be my next question is, where do you see them coming from? Out of state? We have Adam Colt that's going to join us. Are you seeing them come from out of state, California, Houston, the Metroplex? Where are you seeing them come from?
I mean, like I said, we've had a handful already from California, but yeah, I have several that are from the Metroplex, and even just surrounding larger cities even. But I think because we are centrally located, we're not that far to commute to the if you're going to go to Fort Worth or Dallas, and Waco is just right there. So but everybody seems to be wanting, again, I think it's pandemic related as well, I think partially anyway, because they want space. And I don't know, I think so many people are still working from home, homeschooling, they're working out at home. It's kind of been the hub anymore. Instead of everybody going go, everybody's home. So criterias, I guess, have changed somewhat. And so, some people, they're outgrowing their home, they want more, or, oh, good Lord, land has been the hot commodity. Everybody wants land. I mean, which is a great investment for your money, absolutely. But we have so many people looking for 5 to 10 acres or even large acreage. But yeah, tons of people, especially coming in, they want the land. They're not always just looking for a house. They want land, whether it has a house or not. So I think, they want to be able to, I guess, I don't know, be maybe a little more self-sufficient, maybe have the space, be away, you know what I'm saying? I'm not exactly real sure on that, but they're getting out of the cities. More people coming from other states are going to the larger cities, and then some of those people are coming here, and then some of the people from the cities are even getting out of the cities,
Mhm.
Yeah, well, real quick, Lori, I wanted to introduce Colt. He was able to join us. Colt's a familiar face in our podcast series. So welcome. Thanks for joining us, Colt. We're kind of in the middle of some of our questions with Lori here.
Absolutely, Lori. It is a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Lori, with the growth increase of the real estate area, what has that done? I would venture to guess positively affected the property prices for, I guess, the sellers, and then the buyers, I guess, are paying more of a price. But have you seen that? Has that been an increase in overall home values and land values?
Yes, somewhat. Home prices have increased more than what a typical market would have, especially because it is a seller's market. However, sometimes when they feel like they're in such the driver's seat, they can up that price, but they can also outprice themselves and they'll just sit there. So, there is a happy medium, even when something normally isn't going to cost as much as it is right now, but it's not too far out of the ball game as far as home sales. Land, however, has really, really gone up. It's really increased. I mean, used to you could find land 6 to 7,500 an acre, and you're lucky now 10 to 12. Sometimes smaller acreage is 15 and more. Larger acreage, you can get a lower amount per acre, of course, but it's just kind of crazy. People are getting so much more per acre in this last, not even full year, really.
So, Lori, you may have covered this, and if you have, it's okay. We'll give it to Justin. But what is your, from a real estate perspective, what is your
What is my what?
specialty? Do you specialize in one thing in particular over another, or?
Well, I'm mainly residential. I do land sales as well. Keith is more specialized with farm, ranch, and land, and I'm getting there, but he's kind of been the go-to for the land. But I also have buyers I'm working with looking for acreage and land sales as well. But I've had more transactions for residential and a couple of commercial.
So what are some indicators as someone who owns their home? Some indicators to look at, to say, okay, now is the optimal time in the market to look at either selling or buying or both.
Actually, that's what I was telling them. Like, it is a seller's market. So if you've been thinking about selling or know someone, I always tell everybody that I'm like, now is the time to be selling because we have a lot of buyers out there and a low inventory. But oddly enough, it's great for the buyers as well because the interest rates are so low. I mean, I guess people have bumped their prices up a little bit because it's a seller's market, but it's been a historic low for the mortgage rates as well. And like I was telling them, they are going up, but my realtor magazine and track information we get, they're going to remain relatively low for a while. So are you asking if the sellers what they need to be preparing to do if they are going to sell?
Yeah.
Well, usually whenever I'm on, talking to new listings or new sellers or whatever, we want to look at making sure their home is safe, sound, and secure. You want, if you want to invest a little bit, make sure there's not some crazy wall colors, paint's an easy fix for something, neutral, looks good, inviting for buyers. Usually you have to, I always encourage them to take down a lot of family pictures and declutter, desensitize, because you want that buyer to come in and picture themselves in that house, not look at this family in this house. You know what I'm saying? So those are some things. Curb appeal, minor repairs, basically. I mean, if it's not fixed, don't worry about it. And a lot of people always want to go in and do all this major stuff, sometimes anyway. And I'm like, you're not always going to get dollar for dollar. So just make sure it's safe, sound, and secure. It's appealing to buyers. Curb appeal is a big thing. You don't want peeling paint anywhere. Sometimes you can do your own, have an inspection already done. Sometimes a pre-home inspection is a great idea. And then you already kind of know, like, if there's a GFCI outlet that needs to be put in the kitchen, because that's going to ding, you're going to have to replace it anyway, might as well get it done. Or, if there's a deterioration on the ceiling from a leak, you might want to go ahead and get that. You'll have to disclose it, but go ahead and make it look nice, because it's the first thing they're going to look at. Things like that.
So with the market, the increase in market and people selling their homes and the demand and wanting land, is that more or less taking and receiving? Is it just as much to build a house as it is that you just sold a house? Is there a balance there?
I think right now the increase in building, there has been an increase for building a home due to the increase of lumber prices. They're way up right now, and who knows when and if they're going to go back down, and then, which is in turn caused, I think, a lumber shortage, which causes supply and demand. My husband is in construction, and they've actually seen this firsthand. They started doing one project with a home and actually had to completely switch gears because they could no longer get that wood anymore. But I was reading something the other day that the National Association of Home Builders, single family home has gone up approximately around 16,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I guess for an average median price around here, surrounding area, would be 150, 180 to 200 or so. I mean, larger cities, of course, the median price is going to be more, but yeah, so it's increased that much. And so I know we've had a couple of people looking at land to build, and then they've decided they're just going to wait, or another couple decided they're just going to buy something pre-owned because it's, darn near 20,000 that they could have put in something else in their house,
Exactly.
So what do you think that spike in pricing is due to? Do you have any idea or any thought around why the housing market has spiked the way that it has?
The reason the housing market has spiked?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier, is I think part of it could be related to the pandemic, because I think a lot of people are wanting, because they're spending so much time at home. A lot of people are still working from home and have, this last year, obviously working from home, homeschooling, working out at home, gardening. It's just become their hub instead of going. Everybody's home. So their criteria has changed and they need more space or whatever. I think, I feel like people that are in the cities, they're wanting out. They're seeking rural areas again, wanting out of the cluster, wanting more space, wanting small acreage. I think all that kind of plays a part, that in itself, but I also think a lot of it is, in my opinion, could be due to the pandemic.
You know, it's really interesting, you know, geared towards chamber, but I know we have a lot of people who don't. Typically, we wouldn't think of, you know, construction and real estate being affected by the pandemic. Think of it, things that affect our daily lives, such as going to restaurants or movie theaters or the grocery store or things like that. But you know, going back to the thought of lumber increasing, think about how that lumber is transported from point A to point B, then to you. All of those things are affected all the way through. So that's something for us as from business owners' perspective, as well as from the perspective of the everyday civilian, to think through that pandemic hasn't only affected our everyday in and day out of going to restaurants and doing those things. There's a ton of downstream effects that are caused from the pandemic that we have.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of correlation there.
Okay, Lori, we've got just a few more minutes. We appreciate your time. You've given some insight. So we just got excuse me, a couple more questions. Janice, do you want to take do we have some more, or we want to kind of go to the first steps of, you know, buying or selling a home?
Well, that would have been my next question, is gearing that way. What is the first step we take if we want to buy or sell?
Yeah, because Lori, we realize that process can be overwhelming to a lot of folks. So what are some of those first steps that we can take as a seller and or a buyer? Some important steps to take, the first couple ones.
Right. You're absolutely right. It can be, first-time buyers, it can be very overwhelming. But before you even start the buying process, what I usually tell people are there some critical things you need to think of first before you even go through the steps, which would be the down payment. You need to already be saving or know, you know, have your goal of what your down payment's going to be. Credit is also important, and then honing in on your location. So those are things that people need to already be thinking about. The actual buying process, you know, that leads you to, once you figure those out, it leads you to, first thing you need to do is talk to your lender, mortgage broker, and I highly suggest shopping around, at least 2 to 3 of them, figure out what they can do for you that meets your personal situation, interest rates, make sure you're getting the best interest rate you can get, and then getting pre-qualified is also something that is major that you need to have already in hand before you start your actual search with the realtor and buying process. So the other thing, then after you establish a lender and getting pre-qualified, then you're going to want to make sure that you're ready to make a move, because I know I've personally had a few this year that were looking, and then being a competitive market that it is, you know, once we found something for them, they weren't quite ready to jump on it. They wanted to take, you know, a day or two to think about it. And by the time they decided and made their decision, it was under contract already. And so they need to be ready to make a move. And also, of course, you know, you want to find a good agent, have a good trusted partner that's going to be professional, understands your goals, that's going to be able to guide you through the entire home buying process, explain every step of the transaction. And then finally, once you have those, you want to be able to be prepared to make a good, solid offer. And which you still can some, but right now it's just been so different this year, because you better be ready to make your usually a very appealing offer, very strong offer right off the bat, and not play the low ball game and negotiate back and forth, because you don't know if you're the only offer on the table. Sometimes you do, and then you have to make your highest and best. But I always encourage everyone to go ahead and start with a pretty appealing offer, because the bidding wars have been crazy this past year and already again this year. I was gonna say, my last thing I did want to say is a lot of times I will tell my buyers, it's easy to get wrapped up in your present needs or whatever and loving this house, but I always want to make sure they understand to be looking at the resale value of what they're buying. You know, you want to make sure, you know, it's going to keep increasing in value because, you know, a lot of cases, the largest single investment someone makes is buying their home. And so, you know, as long as that appreciation increases, then so do financial opportunities increase as well.
So, Lori, say that I am ready to sell or buy a house. How do I get in contact with you? How do I follow you on social media or get in contact with you directly?
Well, I do have a personal Facebook page that I post on. I have a Ranch Masters Facebook page. We have our website, which is www.ranchmasters.com. And we have our office in town. And I guess my phone number, word of mouth. We do, you know, put a lot of stuff in the newspaper weekly as well. So.
Well, and like you said a while ago, when we first started, that you like to tag your transactions to relationships, and those relationships are probably your best word of mouth.
Yes, word of mouth has been referrals. Referral is the name of the game.
Right.
Especially in a community like Whitney and Hill County that's so close knit. So.
Right.
All righty. Well, Lori, we appreciate the time that you've taken this evening to help us understand the real estate market and get to know you and your Ranch Masters real estate business a little bit better. Do we have anything else, Janice?
No, I think that's good. I do appreciate you taking the time, and sorry about yesterday.
Oh, well, I'm sorry too. But gosh,
Okay.
I do appreciate y'all giving me this opportunity. I want to thank you all for that.
You're welcome.
And thanks, Colt, for joining us. Glad you got to jump on.
Absolutely.
All right,
Nice.
everybody. Thanks for watching the podcast. Y'all stay warm this weekend and stay safe out on the roads. We know it's been kind of a dangerous day out there for some folks. So hopefully y'all have a great weekend. All right.